Welcome back to The Perspective on Berita Satu. I'm Blaise Hope with Phelim Kine from Human Rights Watch talking about the new report, Something to Hide? Question mark, Indonesia's restrictions on media freedom and rights monitoring in Papua. The overarching issue has been security, right, that we haven't touched on. We've spoken on what the report is, but let's go back through history. We start with the independence of Indonesia, 1945, includence of Papua. Sukarno was the president. Where were we then?
Where were we then in Papua? Papua was a colony of the Netherlands, and it was an area which the Indonesian government felt that was theirs. So what we had is it wasn't until the 1960s when the Dutch government, with the UN, working with the Indonesian government, had something called the Act of Free Choice, which essentially was a plebiscite, a limited plebiscite referendum on whether Papua should be independent or should be a part of Indonesia. And this limited plebiscite, which is challenged by Papuan people, the people of Papua. Some people feel that it was a rigged vote. Since then, Papua has been part of Indonesia, but there have been ongoing concerns about how secure Papua is within Indonesia, given its history, long history of imperial colonial status, and the desire of some elements of the population for independence.
Just very quickly, Indonesia, commodities-based economy, really needs Papua for wealth reasons because of the mineral wealth that it's brought. I mean, and it'll need it for that for a long time to come until the economy can shift. There is that element to it. Pan-Papuan identity. This is the separation between cultures here, and that's a big issue, and that's what's driving the insurgency, is it not?
To a certain extent, it's what you say, but it is also a reflection of popular dissatisfaction with governance that's rooted in the fact that there is routine abuses by the security forces, by government officials, of the rights of individuals in Papua, where there is no chance of redress. Let me give you an example. About a year ago, there in a town called Enarotali in Papua, 5 peaceful protesters were shot dead by the security forces. A year later, there is no result of, I think there are 3 separate investigations by the police, the security forces, and the government. We still don't know who killed those people. There has been no follow-up. I mean, this is a place where impunity for even the grossest of abuses, shooting dead of unarmed protesters, can continue.
Okay, moving on. Suharto, what was the progress through that?
Okay, so during the Suharto period, that's where we saw the implementation of
post-66 up to 1998, for those that don't know.
During the Suharto New Order period, that was where we saw the real solidification and formalization of this access restriction system for Papua, where we saw the emergence of this clearinghouse, and where it became if not an explicit, but a practical policy of the government to limit foreign media access to Papua for reasons of quote-unquote security, for reasons of explicit expressions of concern that journalists were potential spies that would foment unrest and promote separatism, independence in Papua.
Would you relate this to a general centralization that was taking place at the time in Jakarta?
Quite likely it was part of that process, yes.
Okay, and when we're talking about what about the argument we're just trying to keep the country together?
Yeah, sure. Look, any country which has security concerns, whether it's issues of terrorist attacks or insurgencies of whatever kind, the government has the right to protect the population and to impose certain controls to ensure that people's lives and property are protected. But what we've seen in Papua is this overly broad brush application of banning media access to Papua, which really goes far and beyond any security interest or concern. It really can't be justified in terms of the security situation in Papua. There's no legal foundation for that.
Okay. Now, Suharto goes. What happens in Papua?
So HRW goes, and what we saw is following the fall of the New Order regime, we had a period of a sort of a Papuan spring, particularly during the Gusdur Wahid era, in which essentially the controls over foreign media access were lifted, and suddenly people could come and go without any problem whatsoever.
The Papuan Spring. We've got to go to break. The Papuan Spring, when we come back, here are our commercials, but stay tuned to The Perspective with Phelim Kine from Human Rights Watch.